Chapter 1, Section 2, Understanding and Finding the Slope of a Line. Some of you have a good understanding of slope. Others, not so sure about what slope actually is. By the end of this video, you're going to have a clear understanding of slope, and I think some of you might find it quite simple. One thing you have to know is that the slope is not a point. The slope is a movement along the line between the points. Now, I underline the M because from now on we're going to talk about slope. We're going to show it as an M variable to signify slope. Now remember, slope is the movement. So let's take a look at how that appears on the graph. We're going to label the axes and we're going to draw a line. Now we have 2 points. Now I'm asking you to find the slope or the slant of this line. Now remember, we cannot measure diagonally between points. That's why we have grid lines to follow. We're going to go up and down and left or right across the grid lines and count them. And this is how you're going to determine your slope. So if we start, say, at one point and we go up and then we go across, what we've actually done here is we followed the y-axis. This is the y, values are going to change, and then we're following the x-axis, and the x values will change. So when you come over here and you see m equals slope, the movement, it's going to be the change in y, that's this, over the change in x, that's this. Now you may hear that referred to as rise over run. Now this rise over run saying is going to really help you remember that this is the change in y over x. Because if you look over here, make believe you're sitting in a chair and you're rising up and then you're going to run along the ground. All right, rising up and down along the y-axis and you're going to run along the x-axis. So you're going to know definitely that this is y over x, the change in y over x. Now some of you may look at this graph and say, now wait a minute, what happens if I want to go from this point to that point? Well sure, you can come on down and you can go across, and those will be your values that you're going to look at. There you go. These will be your y change and this is going to be your x change. You can do that between any 2 points on this line, and the slope will always be the same. Now, there are 3 ways to find the slope. The first way is the counting method. You're going to be given a graph, asked to find the slope, and all you have to do is put your finger on a point or your pencil or pen and just start counting grid lines. That's how easy this is. Here we have a graph and we have a line, and the line is 2 points, A and B, and I'm asking you what the slope is here between point A and point B. Now remember, we don't go diagonally, we follow the grid lines. So we're going to go ahead and follow A upward. Now that's as if we were moving along the y-axis, because when y-axis moves up and down. And now we're going to move to the right to B, and that's as if we're moving along here the x-axis, which goes left to right. Now if we go ahead and count from A upward, 1, 2, 3. So that distance here is 3. The change in y is 3. Now how did I know to put a positive or a negative there? The rule is it's not where you are. It's the direction that you're moving. And we are moving along the y-axis. We're moving up. Upward direction is going to be toward the positive area. If we were moving down along the y, down this way, downward, you're moving toward the negative area. So your number will be negative. Now the same with the x-axis. If I'm moving to the right, it's going to be positive. If I move to the left, it's going to be negative. So now we're going to finish and we're going to show that this count is 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it's positive because we moved in the positive direction. So now our formula is change in y over the change in x. Y over x, y over x. So we're going to show this as positive 3 over positive 7. Yes, you need your signs. Positive over positive is a positive, so therefore your answer is positive 3 over 7. That is your slope. Now you may say, well, I want to go from B to A. I want to go the other way, down and then across. So let's look that way. You're going to go down, and that's going to be down, and now you're going to go left, and downward would be going to be 3, but you move down, which is the negative direction, so it's a negative 3. And when we move left toward the A, you're moving 7, but you're moving left along the x-axis, so you're going to be negative. So you have now y's are negative 3, x change is a negative 7, and when you come over here and you put in y over x, the y movement was negative 3, the x movement was negative 7. Negative divided by a negative is a positive answer. Your answer is 3 over 7. And notice the exact same slope. Any 2 points on that line are going to have the exact same 3 over 7 slope. The second way of finding the slope is you're not given a graph, you're going to be using a formula. There is a definite slope formula. And they're going to give you 2 points. So you're going to find the slope of the line that's passing through the 2 points. Now, because there are 2 points, I'm going to label this as point 1. So I'm going to say the x value here is x1 and y1. They're just little numbers to help me determine which is point 1. Point 2, I'm going to use x2, y2, just to show me that this is actually point 2. So now we're going to come over and we're going to actually look at the change in y over the change in x. Now, our formula is y2 minus y1, so 1.2 minus 0.1, all over the change in point x2 and x1. This is the change in y's over the change in x's. So let's look at point 2. Our y is 5. So we're going to put 5, and then we go over to the first point, and the y there is a 2. So we're going to put 2. 5 minus 2. Now we're going to look at the denominator and get the change in x values. Since I started with point 2, I have to continue starting with point 2. The x in point 2 is 4. Subtract. And then the x in point 1 is a negative 3. So I have to write a negative 3. And now I have 4 plus 3 is 7. And 5 minus 2 is 3. And that's your slope, 3 over 7. That's how simple this is. All you have to do is follow the formula. The change in y's over the change in x's. And all you have to do, mainly remember that if I started with 0.2 for the y value of 5, then I have to start with 0.2 for the x value also, the 4. And there you go. This is the third and last way to find the slope. You're going to be given an equation, and you need to have that equation in what's called the slope-intercept form in order to find the slope and the y-intercept. So let's take a look at the different kind of forms of equation. One equation form is what we've been familiar with already. It's called the standard form, where you have the x and the y together on one side of the equal sign. An example would look like this: 3x plus 2y equals 5. The other equation form that you may see is called a slope-intercept form. Now it's called slope-intercept because it will tell you what the slope is and what the y-intercept is if it's written correctly. That's in the form y equals mx plus b. Now notice y is alone on one side of the equal sign. You need to know this form for when we go to our graphing calculators. M, you know, stands for the slope. Yes, and B now will stand for the y-intercept. Now, B is going to be just one number, and we would talk about y-intercept. Remember, the x is set to 0, and the B would be in the y position of the ordered pair. Now, taking a look at the equation that they've given us, y equals 2/3 x plus 5. We need it to be in the slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept. And it is. We have y equals mx plus b. Therefore, the m is the 2/3, and the b is the 5. M then is the slope, which is 2/3, and we know that that is the change in y over the change in x. So if we think about it, it would be the difference of 2 points is 2, and the difference of 2 points on the x would be 3. Going along, b is going to be the y-intercept, and again, it stands for the y value in the intercept form, and therefore it's 0, 5. Make sure you understand that the x value will be 0. This is another example of the third way that you're going to find the slope. You're going to be given an equation, and you need it to be in the slope-intercept form so you can pull out the slope and pull out the y-intercept. But this is in the standard form currently, so we have to just change it to be in the slope-intercept form. In order to do that, we're looking to get the y alone on one side of the equal sign. That means we have to bring the 6x over to the other side. We're going to then, to do that, subtract the 6x from both sides. You're going to have negative 2y equals negative 6x plus 5. Now you may ask me why I didn't write this at 5 minus 6x. I put the 6x first. That's because I know that I want in this form where the x variable is before the b. So going now, we have to remove the multiplication of negative 2, so we divide everything by negative 2. You can't just pick and choose which one you want to divide. It has to be evenly across the board. Keep everything in balance. So now we have y equals 3x minus 5 over 2, and look at that. We have the slope as 3. We have the y-intercept as negative 5 over 2. Make sure you put it in the correct place in the ordered pair. All right, we have our answer. And take a look, one more point before we finish with this topic, is that if you look at the slope, here it's a whole number 3. Now we know the slope is a change of y over a change of x. So therefore, we're going to look to write this as a fraction. And if we write this as a fraction, the 3 is the change in y's, and the 1 is the change in the x. And remember, it's y over x for the change relationship. We're going to do a brief summary now of what we've covered. There are 3 ways to find the slope of a line. The first way is that you're given the line on a graph. You're going to count the grid lines with your pencil or your finger. The second thing is you're given only 2 points now, not a graph. And with those 2 points, you're going to substitute it into the slope formula and get the change in y over the change in x. And the third way to solve to find the slope is now you're given an equation. And you need to make sure that that equation is in the slope-intercept form, and then you can pull out m for slope and b for the y-intercept. This is the end of this video.